Hey there. So, we're moving on to our next module. And here we will study two short stories that we could characterize as realist. Now, realism is a literary movement in the 19th century in fiction and drama. The next text we're studying is a short story by Rabindranath Tagore called Punishment. Tagore is from India and originally wrote his story in Bengali, which is one of the many languages spoken in the country of India. Now, because India was colonized by the British, now their national language is English. Tagore could read and speak in English, but he chose to write in his native language, Bengali, which I think makes an important statement about how much he cherishes Indian language and culture. Punishment tells the story of the Rui family, the brothers Chidam and Dukiram, along with their wives, Chandra and Radha, and how one mistake essentially serves to punish all of the family. In the story, we see many qualities of realism. Again, it is a movement in fiction and drama from the 19th century. And whenever we read or even watch a show that seems realistic, it's probably because it has the qualities of realism. Now, the first thing to remember is that in realist fiction, there is an omniscient narrator. And by that, I mean that the narrator sees everything that's going on and even sees into the minds of the characters. Omniscient literally means all seeing. And second, the realist author tries to show the world in an objective way. The realist author wants to give us a slice of life where we can see what other people's everyday lives are like. In Punishment, we see what the life of the Rui family is like. Another important quality of realism is how social classes interact. The Rui family in Punishment is a laboring class. They're poor farm workers. And what realism does is that it shows different social classes, what their everyday lives are like, and also how those social classes interact. Also, realism shows social classes that previously were not represented in literature, like poor farm workers in India. Realism often presents the reader with a moral issue, and that issue is often not resolved. There is a kind of ambiguity where the realist author, I think, leaves it up to the reader to decide what is right. In the story Punishment, we see a murder, and the person who committed the murder is not directly punished for it. In fact, someone else takes the blame and the punishment. We can also develop some sympathy for Dukiram, the murderer, because we can understand how frustrated and angry he must have been when he came home from a long, hard day's work to no food. So, who is right and who is wrong in this situation? So, the main qualities of realism that we need to remember is that there's an omniscient narrator that uses an objective view of a slice of life or a view into the everyday lives of different social classes and often presents us with a moral issue. We see these same characteristics in the second short story we're reading in this module. And that's the story by Joaquim Maria Machado de Assis. He is a well loved Brazilian writer. He wrote in Portuguese. Remember, in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. Maquiajo's story, called The Cane, or in the original Portuguese, O Casa da Vara, is a story where we see a glimpse into the everyday life of Senorita, a wealthy mistress of young Damiel's godfather. We see how she is of the upper class and she owns slaves. Slavery was not abolished in Brazil until 1850. And so, seeing her interact with her lower class slaves also shows social classes interacting like the typical realist text. This story, very much like Punishment, presents us with a moral issue. Is Damião guilty of participating in the beating of Lucretia? He likes Lucretia. He feels bad for her. Lucretia, however, is a slave. And when Senorita asks for the cane to beat her, we really see where Damião's loyalty lies. Why would he do such a thing? So, I look forward to reading your thoughts on the discussion board, and I'll see you there.